Most people think manipulation looks like control. A man shouting, a woman crying, a narcissist gaslighting their partner. But real manipulation, the kind that ruins lives, rarely looks that obvious. It's soft, it's subtle, it's polite. A fake apology, a well-timed compliment, a favor that demands silence. This story isn't about a serial killer or a grand con artist. It's about a woman who orchestrated the slow destruction of 3 families, one dinner party at a time. And no one even realized it until it was too late. She didn't need weapons. She used words, glances, secrets. Her motive? You'll think you know, but when the final truth hits, you'll question everything about the people in your own life, because some of the most dangerous manipulators don't raise red flags. They make you feel seen. So if you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Hit follow on your favorite platform and leave us a comment, because the next story might just change the way you see everything. Don't miss a single twisted turn. Chapter 1. The Dinner Party Game. Mara Kensington's influence began not with a scandal, but with a seating chart. It was late spring in Westfield, a quiet New England suburb where social status was calculated by PTA participation, yoga attendance, and the quality of your backyard charcuterie. The neighborhood had a certain rhythm. Housewives rotated dinner parties, husbands rotated golf outings, and everyone smiled just enough to conceal discontent. And at the center of it all was Mara. Reserved, magnetic, always observing, like a librarian with secrets or a therapist who read minds instead of journals. She had moved to Westfield 3 years earlier with her third husband, a wealthy but discreet venture capitalist named Julian, and quickly embedded herself into the community. But she didn't gossip. She remembered. She listened. And when she finally decided to host her own dinner party, she did what no one else had ever dared. She assigned seats. The 6 guests arrived punctually, kissed on cheeks, complimented the minimalist decor. Dark oak, bookshelves of classic literature, and a single black and white photo of a woman standing alone in a field. No one asked who the woman was. Mara never said. Wine? She offered, already uncorking a vintage Cabernet. By 7:40 p.m., the guests were seated. Lee and Adam Carlson, married 7 years, no kids, both in marketing. Polished, presentable. Lee wore guilt like perfume, faint but always lingering. Adam was charming, but with the anxious vanity of someone who had once been cheated on. Derek and Alina Hayes, high school sweethearts, now parents of 2. Derek worked at a high-end law firm. Alina was a homemaker. He flirted too much with waitresses. She smiled too brightly at everything. Julian Kensington, Mara's husband, and Mara herself. The table was elegant but unfussy. White linen napkins, low candlelight, a centerpiece of eucalyptus. There was no music, no phones allowed, no children, only wine, conversation, and Mara's eyes tracking every inflection, hesitation, and lie. She began with a game. Everyone share the moment they stopped believing in something, she said. Could be Santa. Could be God. Could be your spouse. Laughter. But her smile didn't waver. I'm serious. Truth is the only currency tonight. The guests hesitated, glancing at each other for cues. Adam broke the silence. I stopped believing in the idea of soulmates when my ex-wife slept with my best friend. Chuckles. A half-hearted oof from Derek. Lee gave a tight smile. I guess I stopped believing that hard work always pays off. Why's that? Mara asked. No promotion, no baby, no peace, Lee said, swirling her wine. Alina chimed in. I stopped believing in fairness. You do the right thing, stay loyal, and still get blindsided. By Derek? Mara asked directly. The table went silent. Alina blinked. I meant in general. But Mara had already moved on. That night, something shifted. It was hard to name. Like the taste of a foreign spice you couldn't identify but couldn't forget. Lee felt it most. There was a moment in the kitchen, alone with Mara, while the others chatted on the patio. You mentioned the baby thing, Mara said gently. Do you want to talk about it? Lee hesitated. It's fine. Mara tilted her head. You're bleeding from a wound no one else can see. That sentence followed Lee home. By the end of the week, Lee texted Mara privately, "Can we talk more sometime?" And so it began. Lee's first session with Mara didn't feel like therapy. It felt like confession. Mara's office was curated for intimacy. Low light, forest green velvet chairs, and an hourglass that never seemed to run out. Lee poured herself out, about the miscarriage she never told Adam about, her sense of fading relevance, her fear that happiness was a currency she'd never afford. Mara didn't comfort. She framed, "You're grieving a future that was promised to you. That's not weak, that's betrayal." Betrayal by who? By the life you were sold. The one Adam promised. Lee didn't argue. Because Mara didn't attack Adam, she simply made him irrelevant. After 3 weeks, Lee stopped mentioning him entirely. Meanwhile, Derek and Alina spiraled. Their marriage had always been built on silence, unspoken agreements not to touch certain wounds. But Mara was an itch neither could ignore. Derek texted Mara late one night after a legal win. "Drinks sometime. I owe you for the referral." They met at a downtown bar. He ordered a scotch. She didn't drink. She simply said, "You're looking for someone to see you without judgment. I do. But I also see your patterns." "What patterns?" "You self-destruct when you feel ignored. And right now, Alina is treating you like furniture. She's cold. She's numb. Big difference." She placed a hand on his wrist, just long enough to feel electric. That night, Derek dreamt of Mara. He never told anyone. Adam noticed the changes too. Lee began sleeping in the guest room. Her affection was replaced with politeness. He tried initiating a conversation one morning, only to be met with, "I need space, not speeches." He reached out to Mara for guidance. "I think she's seeing someone," he said. Mara didn't deny it. Sometimes people find connection in unexpected places. "Do you know something?" She gave a small smile. "I know Lee wants to be loved without having to beg for it." Adam left the conversation more confused than ever. But Mara, she'd played her hand perfectly. The escalation was subtle but devastating. Alina found a receipt for 2 drinks from the night Derek met Mara. Adam discovered Lee's phone had Mara listed under Nova, a cover name. Derek started scheduling therapy consults during court hours. One by one, Mara wove herself into the emotional blind spots of each person, positioning herself not as a disruptor, but as a savior. The tipping point came when Adam received a message from a burner account. No text, just a 45-second audio clip. It was Mara's voice. "You need to leave. He's not safe. If he reacts, say nothing. Just go. Text me." The clip was meant for Lee, but Adam received it. The realization was volcanic. He played it 12 times. Then he called Derek. "Has Mara ever crossed a line with you?" Adam asked. Derek hesitated. "She kissed me once." "Did she try to make you turn on Alina?" "She didn't have to. She made me think I was already alone." Adam paced. "She's doing the same thing to me. I think she wants our marriages to fail." "Why?" "To matter, to be central, to be irreplaceable." Derek said nothing. Then, "She's good at it." They needed proof. Adam began documenting everything. Texts, voicemails, calendar overlaps. He created a timeline. Mara had been manipulating not just the couples, but their decisions, routines, even emotions. She fed Lee lines about trauma bonding. She told Alina that vulnerability was the weapon men fear most. She convinced Derek he was emotionally repressed and deserved permission to breathe. The final piece came from Alina, a voice note Mara had left by mistake. In it, she described Adam as a textbook narcissist with abandonment issues, and warned Lee that if she stayed, she'd be sacrificing her future for his fear. But Adam wasn't a narcissist, and that line? It was straight from one of Mara's earlier sessions with Derek. The same diagnosis, same phrasing. She was recycling scripts. Adam and Derek met with a journalist, a local podcaster known for true crime exposés. They didn't give names, but they told the full story. The podcast aired 2 weeks later under the title, "The Therapist Who Watched Marriages Burn." It exploded. Reddit threads, TikTok breakdowns, Instagram reels of women reading the quotes aloud. "Pain is currency, and I decide what it's worth." Empathy can be engineered. Trust me. The community turned fast. Mara denied everything, claimed the quotes were fabricated, that she was being targeted for being a powerful woman who spoke truth to broken men. But then came the final blow. A former patient, a teenager named Kells, came forward anonymously. Her post read, "Mara once told me that healing wasn't the goal, leverage was. That if people didn't need you, they'd forget you. I stopped therapy the day she suggested I write a fake suicide note to make my dad understand the stakes. I was 16. It was over." Chapter 2. The Exposure Plan. The fallout wasn't cinematic. There were no police sirens, no televised courtroom breakdowns. Mara Kensington didn't disappear in the night or post cryptic apologies. She simply stopped showing up. The polished therapist, the poised dinner hostess, the magnetic fixer, all vanished behind drawn blinds and a deactivated Instagram account, but her silence only amplified the noise. Within a week of the podcast release, the subreddit or r/arc emotional predators had added a tag called Mara Method, used to classify therapists, mentors, and even friends who exhibited similar manipulation patterns. What began as one anonymous story spiraled into a deluge of screenshots, voice notes, journal entries. The truth spread not because it was sensational, but because it felt familiar. Adam Carlson watched from the periphery. He didn't engage, he didn't post. He sat in his apartment. Lee had moved out 2 days after the podcast aired and reread her final message. "You were right. I don't know who I am anymore. I need time to figure out if that's because of you or her." Lee had left no forwarding address. Meanwhile, Derek Hayes lost his job. Technically, he resigned from the firm after rumors surfaced that a married client had accused him of inappropriate conduct. She claimed he'd quoted his therapist to justify an emotional affair. Derek denied everything. But in the private legal world, perception is poison. Alina didn't leave him, not at first. Instead, she turned her pain into presence. She enrolled in night classes, started writing again, took up boxing, and one night, as Derek stood at the bottom of the stairs watching her lace her gloves, he realized she had returned to herself. And he had vanished from her life without her needing to say a word. "You okay?" he asked. Alina looked at him. "Yeah," she said, for the first time in a while. As for Mara, she didn't issue a formal response. Instead, 6 weeks after the scandal broke, she posted a black and white video to a new platform called The Real Reframe. It was brief, under 90 seconds. Her face was shadowed, her tone measured. "The truth is subjective. My truth isn't yours. Healing offends those who want you broken. If being honest makes me the villain, then so be it. Villains are just heroes with boundaries." The comments were disabled, but the message was received. She wasn't apologizing. She was reframing the narrative, as she always had. Adam, meanwhile, wasn't ready to let go. He began digging deeper. He mapped Mara's entire professional career, traced past clients, colleagues, retreat attendees, even people who tagged her in Instagram stories. The more he found, the more patterns emerged. Not just romantic destruction, but friendships ruined, parents estranged from children, entire support groups fractured. But what scared him most was how many still defended her. "She helped me understand my worth. She taught me to finally say no. I left a toxic marriage because of her, and I'm better for it." Were these victories? Or rebranded trauma? He emailed a journalist from The Atlantic. She passed. He contacted 2 podcast networks. No reply. Then a direct message appeared in his inbox. Username: I recover. "She told me my abuse was a story I was writing too slowly. Said trauma needed a better plot twist. I tried to kill myself that night. I lived. I'll talk. But not on camera." Adam called Derek. "We need to take this further," he said. "Mara isn't just a manipulator. She's a social virus." Together, they contacted a non-profit that specialized in therapy ethics. A representative named Julia Martinez met with them via Zoom. She had almond eyes and a voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "We've heard whispers about her," Julia said, "but we've never had formal testimony." "You will now," Adam said. They compiled a dossier: emails, messages, audio files, timelines. Julia submitted it to the State Board of Psychological Licensing, but bureaucracy moves slow. Mara, meanwhile, had reinvented herself. Now going by Marin Cole, she hosted virtual workshops on emotional resilience. Her followers were mostly women. Many had histories of complex trauma. She called her method empathic detachment. One slide read, "Empaths aren't weak, they're weaponized, if trained properly." Adam watched the promo. He felt sick. "This is a cult," he told Julia. "It's a brand," she replied, "which is more dangerous, because brands don't have to follow clinical ethics." But cracks formed. An ex-client published a blog post titled, "The Woman Who Made Me Leave My Kids." In it, she detailed how Mara told her that motherhood was trauma in disguise, and that leaving her children for a year of silence was not abandonment, it's self-preservation. The woman moved across the country. Her children never forgave her. The story gained traction. And finally, the licensing board responded. Mara's license was revoked, officially, for ethical misconduct and abuse of client trust. But by then, it didn't matter. Her influence was no longer tied to credentials. It was belief, and belief can't be revoked. Derek fell apart again. Losing his job was one thing, but losing the illusion of control? That broke him. He drank. Not daily, but enough that Alina noticed. She didn't confront him. She simply moved out, quietly, like someone walking out of a burning house without slamming the door. Derek texted Mara one night from an old thread she hadn't blocked. "You win." No reply. Then came the video. Adam received it from a stranger. It showed a therapy session from 2018, secretly recorded. In it, Mara was seated across from a couple. The man was weeping. The woman was silent. Mara said, "Sometimes grief is just rage with a mask on, and sometimes the person grieving is also the person who caused the pain." The woman finally spoke. "So you're saying it's my fault he's distant?" Mara leaned forward. "I'm saying the story you're telling might be hiding the truth you're afraid to admit, that you prefer being blamed to being forgotten." The woman started crying. The man looked relieved. The video had no context, no names, but it felt exactly like every other pattern. Weaponized empathy, emotional redirection, control disguised as clarity. Adam knew this wasn't just about damaged marriages. This was ideological abuse. Therapy turned theatrical. He called the Atlantic journalist again. This time, she answered. 1 year later, the Atlantic published a 7,000-word feature titled The Empathy Trap, inside the empire of a therapist who broke her clients to heal herself. It went viral. Netflix optioned the rights. Mara, or Marin, disappeared again. But not for long. 6 months later, she re-emerged as an anonymous spiritual coach on Telegram. No name. Just voice notes. Short messages like, "Forgiveness is for people who aren't brave enough to move forward without closure. Gaslighting isn't always abuse, sometimes it's protection. If your family hurts you, they don't deserve access to your evolution." Same rhythm, same tone, same agenda, different platform. Lee reappeared the same week. She emailed Adam a photo, her standing on a cliff in New Zealand. Hair longer, smile real. The message read, "I had to lose everything to realize what wasn't mine in the first place. Thank you for not becoming the villain in my head, even when you had every reason to." Adam didn't respond. He just stared at the photo and cried. 2 months later, a podcast called Power Play, The Real Mara Kensington launched. Hosted by a former client who had once considered suicide. The first episode was titled Therapy or Indoctrination. Adam appeared in episode 4. Derek in episode 6. Julia Martinez in episode 9. The podcast hit 1 million streams in under a month. In it, a new phrase began circulating. Not a diagnosis, but a warning. Check for the Mara method. It meant, who are you trusting with your vulnerability? Are they reflecting you or rewriting you? Do you feel stronger or more dependent? Because the most dangerous kind of manipulation isn't violent. It's intimate. It sounds like wisdom, feels like clarity, but leaves you lonelier than when you began.